Alright everybody, Frank Valkyrie, welcome to the channel. Let's talk about Jungle Cruise. If you haven't watched the movie, spoilers ahead, so you weren't. I just finished watching this movie, and the first thing that came to mind is how many movies did I watch? There is a pace in this movie that is relentless. There's so much action all the time, most of the time, that really doesn't give you a chance to get into the characters. There are even parts which they're just completely lifted from other movies, and I don't know if it's done in a sort of kind of tribute type of way or it's like straight away laziness and copying. There is a part where the character of Emily Blunt, she's into this association in the UK, artifact, archaeological, whatever, some type of National Geographic of the time of the period of the First World War, and she's in under the table, going around, sneaking in, trying to get into this crate with a hammer and a chisel, whatever that is, with a pick, and she's forcing her way through. And on every hit, you got the guy on a table somewhere on top that is working on a stone that kind of deafens the sound she's making underneath. The same way you have in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where Indy is in Venice breaking the pavement of the library, and the guy in the other room it's stamping on the books, and they make that nice skit that it's still funny. So there is that. There's a lot of action. There is level of wokeness also in this movie. Like making a lot of a big deal of the woman with the pants. I think that probably was uncommon for women wearing pants in the 1915s, but probably there might have been occasions which women, especially in the more aristocratic area, which were allowed to use pants, maybe when they were riding a horse. I'm sure they were doing like horse riding at the time as well in the sort of elite areas. I might be wrong, but it will be interesting to find out. So the whole thing about wearing pants and people being against it, so to speak, the little jabs here and there, I'm like, okay, fine, all right. I have to buy it. Okay, I'll buy it. Let's move on. And apart from that, of course, there was also the other aspect of introducing a gay character, the brother of Emily Blunt character, which I also think kind of gets lost a little bit. I think it's nice, especially for a Walt Disney movie, to open up to that degree. But at the same time, I think it gets lost on kids because they will not most likely understand the reference, when the two character of The Rock and this other guy, they're talking about it, about not getting married because the interest lies somewhere else. So some kids might get it, most kids probably won't. So I'm like, okay, fine, for the adult, whatever. Let's move on, let's buy into that as well. And for the rest, the pace of the movie, there's so much action, so much CGI. It's constant all the time. That despite the fact that you want to like this movie, because people like me especially that love all kinds of science fiction and adventure movies and Indiana Jones, like many out there, of course. You want to be entertained by this, and you want to like it. You want to look into it like with the spirit of like, okay, let's try to see if we can. I can feel that kind of magical thing of the Goonies or in Indiana Jones, that kind of thing. So I was kind of open-minded, but the more I watched the movie, the more I got irritated a little bit, because only thing you see is the redundancies, the constant copying of all the elements that are used and reused and reused and reused and repurposed in those movies to nauseum. You just like, you see the villains and you just have no relationship with. There is just no time for those characters to be developed, to develop any interest for them whatsoever. And the pace is so quick, so fast with the editing that you constantly you're like, oh, okay, it's happening this, it's happening that, it's happening this. You just don't have time. And it's really the case of like less would mean more. Less CGI, less action, just focusing a little bit more on the core of the mysticism of the story, of the adventure, and develop. With the less staff, probably they would have reached the objective of creating this enchanting travel through the forest, of this enchanting place where they're supposed to find this flower. I really don't care anymore. So, and that said, it's not that, the character of The Rock, I think The Rock really tried to do his best, like he's charismatic, and there are so many bits which I really want to like him, and the same thing goes for Emily Blunt, But then you just keep being irritated. Their interaction is just so much all over the place in terms of banter. The banter is constant, all the time. Who says the wisecrack joke better than the other? Like they're constantly at each other being a wise ass, and you're just like, guys, you just almost want to intrude and go, hey, please, let's take a break here, But then at the same time, that those characters, they're supposed to fall in love, and you want to like them, and then you just wonder, less is more. Let's develop this interaction. Let's develop those characters, and then the people, when finally we get the kiss, they're just gonna love it, And like I mentioned in the beginning, the wokeness sifted into the Disney movie, into this movie as well, in terms of, like, again, the woman with the pants, and being against the sort of the patriarchy, blah 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 blah. There is this absolutely silly scene at the end of the movie where, after they've discovered that the world is full of mysticism, and they retrieve the flower from this tree, whatever, and they kill the conquistadores, which they were trapped for whatever reason there. Anyway, they refused being associated with the association, and they basically sent all those sort of 1915 gentlemen to fuck themselves. And then on the upper balcony, there were all women applauding, and I'm like, is it this, like, historically accurate? Would those women even be there allowed to listen to this speech? So there is all this kind of, like, just for the sake of serving the purpose of whatever woke message they want to deliver. And I'm like, man, I miss the Goonies. God damn it, I miss the Goonies. And that's all I have to say, really. It's like I watched 15 movies. There is some Pirate of the Caribbean, there is some Indiana Jones, there is some other movies, and all of it's packed at a pace that you just all of a sudden get this interest, because it's just too much. Now they're chasing away. They're running away from a waterfall that they just managed to escape, whatever. And then there is the fight. And then there's this other fight. And then... You got the point. I'm pissed. Anyway, guys, joking aside, actually I wanted to show you the trailer. I didn't. Doesn't matter. We talked. Again, sometimes I get a little bit upset about those movies, because at the end of the day, you might say, oh, it's a kid movie. But it's also not true, because there are plenty of better movies made for families, which are more intricate, layered, with better character, and they leave you something more in terms of morality, in terms of tale, in terms of adventure. This is not it. This movie, whether it was there or not, it will make absolutely no difference, because it's another 5.5 level movie, or 5.3 level movie. That's it. Despite all the beautiful CGI that most of the time is too much, that even makes you kind of miss a little bit of practical effects. Like a real wall from the 1900 in the UK that you can sort of feel a connection for, because it's a freaking real wall, instead of an entire city rebuilt that it's spectacular to look at, but then again, it's fake, So I think we really got the point where we can do so much, and they do it, but at the same time does not serve neither the artistry of a movie, nor like the possibility of creating another kind of classic that people in 15 years are just gonna place it in their favorite library of movie, you know, like Indiana Jones 1 or the Last Crusade or something. So that's the only issue I have with that. It's the fact that they try so hard to repolish the same format of things, making sure that people buy tickets, that they just missed a chance of taking a chance to make a greater movie, you know? And yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, this is of course just my opinion, really warm off the watching the movie. But maybe on a new rewatch, you know, I can also change slightly my mind and maybe enjoying certain area a little bit more. Now, the more I watched the movie, the more I got a little bit irritated by all those things that we mentioned before. That you're just like, oh, come on, you know, The Rock is doing well. Emily Blunt, she's great. You know, could have been so much better. Anyway, I know it's always easier to talk from the outside, but then again, those movies are made for us, for the audience. And yeah, if we can spend like a couple $100 million to be mediocre, well, then sure as hell we can at least share our mediocre opinion, perhaps. At least it's cheaper. It didn't cost that much. Anyway, guys, I'll see you later. You take care of yourself.